Welcome to another edition of Sound Off Extra here on the official YouTube channel for the Solomonster Sounds Off Wrestling Podcast, which you can listen to each and every Sunday. I am the very shocked Solomonster. I don't really know what else to say after what I just saw. One of the most shocking endings to a WWE pay-per-view ever. And if you are one of those people who thinks that WWE is very predictable and it's always the same old, well, you certainly got something different in that main event. I don't know that it was good, but it was different. Goldberg beat Brock Lesnar in less than 90 seconds. 2 spears and a jackhammer. It's comical. I put a picture up of my notes because I was taking handwritten notes tonight. And I put a picture up of my notes for the main event. It literally is just 3 lines. 2 spears, jack, wow. Those are my notes. After sitting through 3.5 hours of what was mostly a thumbs down pay-per-view, looking forward to that match the most, 90 seconds, and it's over. And as I look at the poll here that I put up on my Twitter page so far, feedback has been fast and furious. 1,400 of you have already voted. It's only been up for a few minutes. Even split. 50% thumbs up, 50% thumbs down. A very polarizing show, to say the least. By the way, in case you haven't figured it out, this is your Survivor Series 2016 review. This was billed as I think they billed this as the 30th anniversary, although I guess technically next year would be the 30th anniversary. I guess we'll start from the beginning and we'll kind of work our way up to the main event. I missed the opening pre-show matches. I know one of them was a Cruiserweight, I think a 6-man Cruiserweight match. All I know is that Rich Swann got the win for his team, and I know Kane beat Luke Harper, I believe, with a chokeslam, I'm sure, in what was a riveting contest. So I came in right as the pay-per-view was beginning. Now, this is a pay-per-view that was coming off of an awesome NXT TakeOver show in front of the same crowd in the same building the night before. And I said on the podcast earlier, not even the best TakeOver show they've ever done, but I've yet to see anything less than a very good TakeOver show. So this show here, this pay-per-view, had some big shoes to fill, especially after some of those matches last night. And suffice to say, NXT gets the win this weekend. They open with the women's match. It was the Raw team composed of Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, Bayley, and Alicia Fox against what was supposed to be the SmackDown team of Nikki Bella, Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, and Naomi. And we found out before the match that Nikki Bella was attacked by a mystery assailant in the back. She didn't see who attacked her. She didn't know what happened. Natalya was there. She said to Daniel Bryan, we're one woman down. We got to have a replacement. I know I'm the coach, but, put me in, coach. I'm ready. And Daniel Bryan said, well, of course, you're in the match. So I guess we're supposed to think that it was Natty who took out Nikki so she can get a spot in this match. Crowd was happy, given the Canadian connection here. So they were very happy to see Natty in this match. And I thought this was just a very underwhelming match. And the eliminations and just a lot of the things that happened in this match were just very weird. Just a very weird match. The crowd wasn't even into it, which is odd, again, also because it was the first show to open the pay-per-view. And you would expect there to be a hot crowd and an energetic crowd, and they weren't there for the opening match like you would expect them to be. Just to run through the eliminations here, Alicia Fox got rid of Carmella first with the axe kick, so Carmella was the first one out of there. Alexa Bliss pinned Alicia Fox with Twisted Bliss. Naomi got counted out after she was thrown into the steel post outside, or whatever the hell that post is made out of now, by Nia Jax. Natalya pinned Sasha Banks, rolled her up with a cradle. That was surprising, that Sasha Banks went out that early in the match. So that was kind of weird. And then we had Charlotte pinning Natty with a front kick. So she got rid of Natty. Crowd was not happy about that. And Becky Lynch beat Nia Jax with the disarmer. And Nia Jax, they made her out to be the monster. She had one spot where the two women, I think it might have been Becky and Alexa, went to give her a double suplex, and instead Nia reversed it, and she suplexed the two of them, which looked kind of impressive. But then they fucked up a DDT spot. There was some kind of a botch. And then Nia Jax, the big monster that they had built up, just taps out to the disarmer. I thought that also was weird. So, Natty, I mentioned Natty being eliminated. The crowd was not happy about that. That kind of took the wind out of their sails a little bit. But honestly, the entire match did. It just never felt like it got into that next gear. Came down to Charlotte and Bayley representing Raw against the women's champion on SmackDown, Becky Lynch, 2-on-1. And Bayley pinned Becky Lynch with the Bayley to belly suplex. So Bayley gets the win for her team, but then Charlotte, clearly out of jealousy, attacks Bayley. So that's going to set up a program going forward, I imagine, between the two of them for the championship. So I guess in that respect, they had an end goal here. The end goal was to build to a program between Charlotte and Bayley, and that's what they're going to do. I didn't think this match was really all that great, to be honest with you, and I think the crowd, based on their reaction, didn't seem all that into it either. So not the hottest way to start out this pay-per-view. And as if that isn't bad enough, then we go to The Miz. Now, I am a fan of a lot of The Miz's work lately. I was befuddled by the decision to take Dolph Ziggler out of this match. We may yet find out that it's leading to something else. We'll see. But I was looking forward to seeing Sami Zayn against Dolph Ziggler, babyface against babyface, Intercontinental Championship on the line. If Sami Zayn wins, he takes the championship over to Raw. And then 6 days, or I guess 5 days before the pay-per-view, Miz just beats Ziggler. After all the matches that they had and that long chase, and Ziggler putting his career on the line, he finally wins it. He finally wins the big one. He beats The Miz. He takes the Intercontinental Championship. And a month later, or 5 weeks, or whatever it's been, he drops it back to The Miz before the pay-per-view. Ziggler, nowhere to be found on this show. So we get an inferior match between Miz and Zayn. I didn't think this match was really all that great. In fact, I thought this match was freaking boring. They were selling a leg injury for Sami Zayn, so he could barely walk on the leg. I mean, psychology-wise, it made sense. Focus on the leg. Miz was trying to use the figure four. Zayn reversed the figure four, and Miz got out of that. I'm not saying that didn't make sense. I just thought that the match was just very dull. And again, the crowd was into Zayn when he came out, right? He's a Canadian boy. But again, they weren't as up for this match as you would expect. And I can't blame them, because I'm sitting here at home and I just felt the same way. And then we got to the finish of the match, which was Sami Zayn had Miz in his own figure four. He was trying to tap him out. All of a sudden, the bell starts ringing. And the referee never called for the bell, so they go and they show that Maurice grabbed the timekeeper's hammer and she was furiously ringing the bell. Referee said, no, there was no tap out. There's no tap out here. And that provided enough of a distraction for Miz to roll up Sami Zayn, get the pin. And it's just one of those finishes on a big pay-per-view like this. Raw, SmackDown, and even some of the B shows. You can argue, okay, that's what Miz does, right? He cheats. He always finds a way to eke out a win. But they built this pay-per-view up, Raw versus SmackDown. Who's the, superior brand? Like, it was this big deal. They already took away what would have been a much better match. So I figured, all right, maybe they have something planned. Zayn's going to win the championship. Maybe they just didn't want him beating Dolph. They'll shake things up a little bit, do something. Nope. Just another kind of basic finish. Nothing special. Miz steals a win. Zayn, unless they trade him over to SmackDown, which they should, is still stuck on Raw. So it's not like it's even building to anything between him and Miz, because they're on separate brands. Miz stole another finish, and that was it. Very underwhelming. So up next, we have the tag team elimination match. It is The New Day, Cass and Enzo, Cesaro and Sheamus, the Shining Stars, and Anderson and Gallows, against Heath Slater and Rhino, American Alpha, the Usos, the Hype Bros, and Breezango. And it's kind of a crime that Breezango lasted less time in this match than the Shining Stars. Breezango, they were the first ones gone. No offense, just total comedy act. Gone instantly. And they did follow the rules that when one member of a team was eliminated, the entire team is gone. So Fandango got pinned, and he got hit by the big ending from the New Day. And so poor Tyler Breeze had to leave with him. Then they had a very shocking elimination. The New Day, tag team champions now for about 1,000 days. And the leaders of Team Raw were eliminated next. Kofi Kingston was kind of mocking Breezango and taking his eye off the ball. And he ate a super kick from one of the Usos and was pinned. So just like that, the New Day was gone. And you know what? It's okay to have a shock elimination like that every now and then. Nobody expected the New Day to go out that early. That's kind of cool. Okay, fine. Hype Bros were out next. They were eliminated. Shining Stars were gone. American Alpha eliminated Primo. They used the old Steiner Brothers Top Rope Bulldog finish to get rid of the Shining Stars. American Alpha eliminated via Magic Killer from Anderson and Gallows. Rhino gored the hell out of Gallows and pinned him, so Anderson and Gallows were gone. Cass and Enzo then got rid of the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Slater and Rhino. The Usos beat Cass and Enzo, got rid of them. And it really got good there at the end. I have to say, like, this match, it was okay, but it really picked up in the end with the Usos and Sheamus and Cesaro. Of course, Cesaro has to be involved. Cesaro is one of the best guys they have on either roster. Ended with Cesaro tapping out Jey Uso with the sharpshooter. Sharpshooter is an easy pop in Canada. We saw it the night before. I think it was Ty. Was it Ty Dillinger? It was in his match with Bobby Roode, it may have been, who used the sharpshooter at TakeOver. So crowd went crazy for that, and they love Cesaro anyway. And he, as I said, tapped out Jey Uso, and so Sheamus and Cesaro now are going to get a tag team title match. We found out after the fact. On Raw tomorrow night, it's going to be them challenging the New Day. And of course, the New Day has not yet reached the record, which I think is 478 days to tie Demolition. They've been building this record up like it's such a big deal. I still think they're about a month or maybe 5 weeks. What is it? Somewhere in that 3 to 5 week range, I think they still have, if they want to break the record. And I think they are breaking the record, so I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see tomorrow night if they want to pull the trigger on a tag team title change. I just figured they got this far. They probably want to take it all the way. So this thing picked up in the end. I think it turned into a good match, but when they do those like rapid fire eliminations, which they do that a lot in these matches, I don't know. It's like guys can go on for an extended period of time without being eliminated, and then one guy's gone, all of a sudden like the dominoes fall, then the next guy goes, and then 20 seconds later somebody else goes. And we got some of that here in this match, and I'm not really a fan of that. But I just thought as a match, it was good. It was a good match, picked up in the end. We then got the Cruiserweight Championship match between Brian Kendrick and Kalisto. If Kalisto wins, stipulation was that not only does he become the new champion, but he takes the entire Cruiserweight brand to SmackDown with him. You could hear a pin drop in the arena during this match. I thought the match was okay. They're working hard in there. It just seemed like nobody cared. It was kind of sad, actually, watching this match. I just got done talking about the Cruiserweights on the Sound Off earlier today, and how I have hope with this 205 live show that's premiering next week that they'll really, start to give us a side of the Cruiserweight division that we haven't really gotten the chance to see yet on Raw. We got a lot of it in the Cruiserweight Classic. It was a breath of fresh air in terms of the presentation and the action and everything. It was something unlike anything that we have really seen in WWE. And what we've seen on Raw, and I guess you saw it to an extent in this match, good action, but nothing blow away. Nothing that makes you go, wow. Like these guys are on another level from everybody else, or this is just nonstop balls to the wall action. You really haven't gotten that with the Cruiserweights yet. I'm hopeful that we'll start to see more of that starting next week. This was not balls to the wall action. This was a very basic pro wrestling match with two guys that, I guess people just don't really have a reason to care about. Kendrick had this great story in the Cruiserweight Classic about, here's a guy who was in WWE, he was a star, he was a former tag team champion, and then he made some bad decisions, and he left the company or got fired, whatever. And now he's trying to take advantage of this second chance. He's got a second chance at life here. He's got to win this tournament. It's his only shot. They had Daniel Bryan on commentary, his best friend, building him up every single week. And I remember when Kendrick lost in the tournament, Bryan was just beside himself. He was crying. He went into the ring and he embraced. I mean, they made you care about Kendrick. They got you to want to see Brian Kendrick win that entire tournament. Forget Kota Ibushi and all these other people. You wanted to see this guy win. They gave you a reason to care. And now he's a heel on the show, so it's not the same situation where they want you to care about him so much. They want you to see him get beat. Thing is, I don't care enough to see him get beat. I really don't. And Kalisto, I don't even know why Kalisto is on SmackDown. He should be part of the Cruiserweight division, but he's not for some reason. Sin Cara is, but Kalisto is not. And Kalisto worked, they tried, but I don't know, to me this match just never really clicked. And then, as if that isn't bad enough, the big finish here, right? So, story is, SmackDown didn't win. The Cruiserweight division is staying put on Raw, which I think is a mistake. But Baron Corbin, who was supposed to be in the 5-on-5 elimination match, was injured in a match, quote-unquote injured, in a match on SmackDown a couple weeks ago against Kalisto. He slipped, he hurt his knee, Kalisto went after him, he was very violent. We saw a side of Kalisto we hadn't seen before. So Corbin took his revenge here in this match. And he cost Kalisto and the entire SmackDown brand the Cruiserweight Championship, which Daniel Bryan was not very happy about backstage after the match. But imagine, you got these two guys in the ring. They're out there, they're struggling to put together an exciting match. They're building to the finish here. They're building to the end. And what is the end? Especially after what we saw in the other Raw vs. SmackDown match. And I think this gets to the point of why this bothered me so much. There are elements that absolutely make sense here. I said it before in the Miz match. Miz is a heel. Heels generally will cheat to win. We've seen Miz use Maurice to his advantage before, especially in the Ziggler feud. How many times did Ziggler get maced in the face and all these horrible things that happened to him? So, working the leg against Sami Zayn and the sharpshooter spot, not the sharpshooter, the figure four spots and all that. I'm not saying none of that didn't make any sense. I'm just saying in terms of what I was expecting as a viewer here on this Raw versus SmackDown pay-per-view, I thought it was very underwhelming. So that's what happened in the IC title match. Now we go to the other one, the Cruiserweight title match, and the big finish is Baron Corbin runs in for the fucking DQ. Really? That's the finish? That's the grand finish that you had in mind here for this match? Well, I sure can't wait to watch SmackDown to see the continuation of this Baron Corbin-Kalisto feud. Has me on the edge of my seat. So because Corbin came in and hit Kendrick first, Kendrick got the win by DQ, which is why the Cruiserweights are staying put. I thought the finish, yes, maybe it made sense to further whatever this feud is that they're doing, but I thought this finish was terrible. And I think the fact that the Cruiserweights are staying on Raw, given how they have been portrayed so far, is also a mistake. This was a real opportunity here to shake things up and get them over to SmackDown, which I think is a better place for them. They didn't do that, and the finish they came up with, I thought, was, again, very underwhelming and very disappointing for what was supposed to be such a special pay-per-view. It was more of the same crap from WWE. Just more of the same. Which brings us to the 5-on-5, Raw vs. SmackDown elimination match. At this point, we had the two main events left in this pay-per-view. 2 hours left for two main events. So I'm thinking, man, there's no way. I mean, they're not going to put Goldberg and Lesnar in there for 20 minutes. Well, they didn't. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, but yes, they did not go that long. Instead, what they did here was, we basically got an Iron Man Survivor Series elimination match. This match went 53 minutes by my watch, give or take. It was Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Braun Strowman representing Raw against AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, and Shane McMahon representing Team SmackDown. They had James Ellsworth as the official SmackDown team mascot in their corner. James Ellsworth, who is now officially under contract to WWE full-time. So we had, the match started out a little slow. Some gaming going on here, both sides feeling each other out. You knew at this point, looking at the time and looking at kind of the pacing of the match, this thing's going to go on for a while. I didn't think it was going to go for 50 minutes, but you thought, okay, we're in for a long match here. But I'm also thinking, you know what? This has been, to me, a very underwhelming show so far. I know some of you guys are going to disagree, and we can disagree on that, right? It's a subjective thing. Some of you are going to think I'm nuts. You're going to say, man, this was a great pay-per-view. What's wrong with you? Up to this point, maybe sucked is a strong word. I didn't like this pay-per-view up to this point. I'm sitting here going, this is Raw vs. SmackDown. This is one of the big four. They're trying to make Survivor Series feel special. They're doing a terrible job. And so I'm looking at this and I'm saying these two main events need to deliver to save this show. We are at the point where the show needs to be saved. I won't say that this match saved the show, but this was an excellent match. This was easily the best thing on the entire show by leaps and bounds. So we get to a point where Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles, who have had a feud going on now for a few months, in fact, they're in the main event of the TLC pay-per-view, which, by the way, is only 2 weeks away. So get ready. We got another pay-per-view coming up in less than 14 days. And they're going to be in a TLC match. So a lot of bad blood here between Ambrose and Styles. And we get to a point in the match where they start shoving each other and pushing each other around. And now they're going at it. And Shane is trying to keep them separated. Come on, keep your head on straight. We got a match to win here. They're going at it. Braun Strowman, who had tagged himself in the midst of all of this, ends up pinning Dean Ambrose. So Dean Ambrose is the first member of Team SmackDown to be eliminated. The man who's challenging for the WWE Championship is eliminated first. And then came the scariest spot of the entire show. Braun Strowman grabs AJ Styles, throws him out of the ring, throws him over the ropes. AJ, who has his back turned, falls backwards. Now, thank God, if I remember, he got his arm and kind of grabbed the top rope to brace himself as he fell out of the ring. Had he not done that, he would have just fallen backwards right out of the ring, right on the back of his head. He may have been paralyzed. He may have broken his freaking neck. That was scary. It was reckless and it was scary. Thank God he got that rope. And somehow he survived and he, I can't say he wasn't concussed. Who the hell knows? He seemed to be okay. They let him continue. I don't know how he survived that. So then we had Bray Wyatt come face to face with Braun Strowman. A little bit of a Wyatt family standoff there. And it looked like maybe he had Strowman under his control again. Jericho came in, and who, of course, is partners with Strowman, is telling him, come on, go after him. So Strowman grabs Jericho by the neck. He grabs Bray by the neck. Randy Orton ended up going forward a little bit here. Strowman ended up outside the ring. Randy Orton gave him an RKO on the table. Didn't break the table or anything, but he gave him an RKO right into the top of the table, the announce table. And so then Orton and Wyatt teamed up to set Braun up on another announce table. You had the three of them at ringside. So they've got Braun laid out on this announce table. Shane McMahon, who's completely gassed by this point, just gasping for air, is in the ring, climbing up to the top rope, so you know what's coming next. And to his credit, he looked exhausted, but he nailed it. He didn't undershoot it. I was a little worried maybe he'd missed the table or hit the edge of the table. We saw Mick Foley embarrassingly do that once at a WrestleMania. He didn't quite make the table, and he kind of hit the edge. But Shane, look, he's an athlete. Shane he may not be the best wrestler in the world, and he may not have had any business being in there with these guys, quite frankly, but he's an athlete. And he nailed that flying elbow drop picture perfectly. James Ellsworth. Now here, I thought this was one of the more clever spots of the match. I'd kind of forgotten, honestly, that Ellsworth was even out there as the mascot. And the reason why is because he disappeared. He went under the ring. That's why. So Strowman eventually recovers. He's trying to get back into the ring in time. These fans, by the way, are chanting 10 every time the referee counts to kind of throw him off and throw the wrestlers off. They did that at TakeOver the night before. They did it here. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or a Ty Dillinger thing or whatever. It got kind of annoying. So they're counting, and Strowman, it was kind of awkward. Like, he's trying to go in the ring, but he's just standing there. I'm like, what's he doing? So he gets counted out, and then they pan down, and you see a pair of hands grabbing his boot. And he pulls this little man out from under the ring, and that little man turns out to be James Ellsworth, who is grabbing Strowman's foot to prevent him from getting back into the ring in time. He's doing his part to help Team SmackDown. So he got Braun Strowman, the monster, counted out. I thought that was clever. I actually liked that spot. So now Braun Strowman just locks this death stare on James Ellsworth. Ellsworth knows he's screwed. He's backing up. He trips up on the stage. Strowman catches him. Takes a lot of talent for a guy like Braun Strowman to catch up to you, but somehow Ellsworth allowed him to catch up to him. And Strowman threw James Ellsworth off the stage through a table. There were a couple of tables that were kind of lined up next to each other down below, and he just threw, just like a rag doll, tossed this guy through the air, and Ellsworth went through the table and died a death. He was just laid out. So they made Braun Strowman look like a monster. I thought this was a good night for Strowman, aside from the fact that he almost killed AJ Styles. He certainly came away looking more like a monster than Brock Lesnar did in the main event. So we had AJ Styles in the ring with Chris Jericho, and Styles goes and he attacks Kevin Owens on the apron. Kevin Owens is just standing there minding his own business. Styles goes over and hits him. Kevin Owens now is pissed. He grabs the list. He grabs Jericho's list. He comes into the ring and he attacks Styles with it. Papers go flying all over the place. It was comical. He gets DQ'd. Now this was also weird because the referee never called for the bell. It almost looked like the referee was going to allow him to get back out on the apron. All of a sudden, JoJo, I think it was, makes the announcement that Kevin Owens has been eliminated, probably because she got a cue from the back. Then the referee was like, oh, okay, you got to go to the back now. So there was a little bit of a communications fuck up there. Crowd was not happy. They were pissed that their Canadian hero here, one of them, one of two in this match, was eliminated in such underwhelming fashion. But that was the end of Kevin Owens in this match. Jericho wasn't even so much devastated about Kevin Owens, his best friend, being eliminated. He was devastated looking down and seeing all of his papers all over the floor. Somebody had manhandled and misused the list. He was more upset about that than anything else. That actually might be a source of contention tomorrow night on Raw between him and Kevin Owens. This could be the beginning of the seeds of a split between the two of them. So then Jericho ends up getting hit by an RKO and laid out and pinned. So now we're down to 4-on-2. Shane McMahon, Bray Wyatt, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton against Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. So then we had Shane McMahon and Roman Reigns. This was the other very scary moment in this match. So they were setting up the coast to coast. Shane McMahon, who, God bless the guy, but he throws these punches. You know, like he's practicing, I don't know, is it judo or taekwondo, whatever. I forgot what specialty they said that Shane is training in jiu-jitsu. Maybe it was jiu-jitsu. So apparently Shane now, he's like a master of the fists, right? He could throw all these punches. Remember those phantom punches he threw at Randy Orton back during the Legacy feud in 2009? Shane McMahon and punches, and they don't really look good. But he's throwing these jabs and these punches, and everybody has to sell for him. It's completely ridiculous. So we saw a lot of that from him in this match. But now he's setting up for the coast to coast. Roman Reigns is down in the corner. Shane McMahon wills himself up to the top rope in the other corner. And I knew what they were going to do. Roman was down. He was watching. He was waiting. I said, all right, Shane's going to launch himself. Roman's going to pop out of the corner. He's going to hit the spear. It probably looked pretty cool. Let's see how this turns out. Well, didn't turn out very well, because I think what happened was Roman waited too long. I think this one is on Roman. And so because he waited too long, the timing wasn't right. He kind of hit Shane with the spear, but it was it was vicious. And the collision, landing on the mat, Shane looked like the back of his head just smacked the mat. Reigns looked like maybe he was had his own head spiked into the canvas, but he was okay. Shane was not okay. And unfortunately, this great spot that clearly was mistimed, but it at least looked brutal, and it would have been one of the more memorable moments of the match had Roman gotten the pin like I'm sure he was supposed to. Instead, he got two. Shane's shoulder was up. And, the referees, by all accounts, are taught to count it as a shoot. So if you're in a match, even if you think or that this is supposed to be the finish, this is supposed to be the final fall, if the guy's shoulder is up, you don't count the fall. So Shane, I'm guessing that Shane was probably just concussed. He was knocked loopy, didn't know where he was, didn't know what he was doing, and had his shoulder up. Probably didn't even realize he had his shoulder up. Well, what's the referee going to do? Shoulder is clearly up. He can't count 3. So he holds up the count, and that's not a spot that Shane McMahon is kicking out of. So unfortunately, it was a complete botch. It ruined the moment. I just hope Shane is okay. He really looked quite out of it. And Randy Orton, I don't know how many of you caught that. Randy Orton at one point went over to a couple of kids outside the ring. And it looked, and I didn't know exactly who they were at first. I'm checking through tweets to like, who are these? Apparently they were Shane's kids. At least that's the belief, that Shane's kids were at ringside, and Orton, I guess when he thought he wasn't on camera, went over just to reassure them that everything was going to be okay. I thought that was nice of him to do, but very scary. Very scary. Look, things happen. Things happen with, the most professional of guys. We got to remember, though, Shane is not a pro wrestler. He's not. He's a great athlete. He does a lot of death-defying, crazy things that, I would never do. You probably got guys on that roster who wouldn't try half the shit that Shane does. And I don't know what Shane's level of training is. He might have no training. It's very possible that Shane McMahon has no formal professional wrestling training. Which makes it even more impressive because he's had good matches before. But he's 47, 48. Probably no real training. Bad things can happen. Look, this guy dove off the Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania. Now, they had crash pads down below, but you don't think that something could have gone wrong on something like that? You're taking a chance. You're tempting fate. Something like this was bound to happen. I just hope everything's fine and he's not seriously hurt, but I'm just saying, Shane, let's be honest here, Shane shouldn't have even been in this match. They could have kept Corbin in there. They could have put The Undertaker in there, which I thought they were going to do once he showed up on SmackDown last week. It didn't make any sense anyway because you got The Undertaker saying, I'm back. This Raw vs. SmackDown thing is supposed to be so important. Why would you keep someone who is clearly inferior in the match when you have somebody like The Undertaker who just came back and said, I bleed blue? He's laying down an ultimatum to Team SmackDown. You bastards better win. How about, here's a better idea. Take the freaking commissioner out of the match and put The Undertaker in there. But they didn't do that. So Shane got his big elbow drop and he got to do his little shadow punches. And then he got his clock cleaned. And that's what happens when you're not supposed to be in the ring. So Dean Ambrose, who was eliminated first in this match, came back out a few minutes later. He went after AJ Styles because apparently Dean Ambrose is the worst babyface of all time. Of course, he got booed. What it led to, though, was probably, if not the coolest, one of the coolest moments for me anyway on this pay-per-view. I was a big Shield fan. Anybody who listens to the show knows that I am a big believer that the Shield is one of the greatest factions that WWE has ever produced. I put them way up there when I look at their body of work and all the matches they had, especially on Raw, in 2013 and a good part of 2014. They carried that company, they carried that show for so long. And, even split apart, you've got 3 guys who are 3 main event guys. I'm trying to think back to factions that had 3 different guys who were 3 different, main eventers, world champions, top guys in the company. The Horsemen, that was a different era. I wouldn't say Arn Anderson or Tully Blanchard was carrying a show or, a world champion or anything like that. DX, you had 2 guys, Shawn Michaels and Triple H. NWO, I guess you could say. But, it's very rare to find, I think, a group of guys like that have had the level of success that they have had. And their body of work as the Shield speaks for itself. The Shield was awesome. And I was very upset when they split those guys apart. Because I thought there was still some juice left in them as, for a babyface run. So, what I find funny is when they split the Shield up in 2014, I don't remember if it was Meltzer or Keller, one of the newsletters, had an item that WWE was already thinking about a Shield reunion, possibly at the Survivor Series the following year, which I guess would have been last year. But they were already thinking, hey, Survivor Series coming up, we'll wait about a year and a half, and we'll reunite these guys, even if it's just for one night only. And I remembered that when I saw this here, because it was like, they were just 1 year off. Here we are, Survivor Series 2016, and we got that Shield reunion. It was a great spot. People went crazy for it. Ambrose, Reigns, Rollins, they all teamed up to give AJ Styles the old school Shield triple powerbomb through the announce table outside the ring. It was awesome. I thought that was just, it was so cool to see that. And it would seem that, I guess we'll find out on Tuesday, that The Undertaker might want to have a chat with Mr. Ambrose. Because remember what Undertaker said about Team SmackDown? You guys better win. Because if you don't, you're going to have to answer to me. And it was Dean Ambrose coming back out and assisting in the elimination of AJ Styles, which ultimately, in the end, Team SmackDown did win. So, how upset can The Undertaker be? But Ambrose came very close to costing his team the match, so I would imagine that they'll be held to pay for him there. Came down to 2-on-2. It was Roman and Seth against Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. Luke Harper appeared at this point, fresh off a hot loss to Kane on the pre-show. Rollins at one point went for a frog splash on Bray. Randy Orton caught him in an RKO coming off the top rope. Those two guys work so well together. So he caught him picture-perfect RKO, laid out Seth. That was the end of Rollins. It was down to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was trying to be the sole survivor here for his team. It was him against the Wyatt family. And Randy Orton, in the end, took a bullet for Bray Wyatt. Here I am sitting here waiting for Randy Orton to drop the hammer on Bray and turn on him and end this whole facade with the Wyatt family. But he's been sticking with Bray, and here he was. He jumped in the way of a spear. Roman was about to spear Bray Wyatt. Instead, Randy shoved Bray out of the way. He ate the spear himself, and that allowed Bray to hit Sister Abigail on Roman Reigns and get the pin. So I thought that was a very interesting finish. It furthers the story. I thought that was cool. There were a lot of cool moments in this match. Not just the Shield thing. There were a whole bunch of cool moments. It was long, and everybody had a chance to shine. Even Strowman before he got eliminated. Even after he got eliminated. They kept him strong, looking like a monster. And maybe the best part about this whole thing is, for all the crap that Bray Wyatt has been through and all the losing and just kind of hanging around and not having stuff to do for so long, they have misused and mishandled and abused this guy. That finally, Bray Wyatt gets a big win. He survives at the Survivor Series. So that was really cool. And I thought this was an excellent match. Not enough to save the show, because you got to know, look, these shows are very long. This show didn't go quite 4 hours. It went 3.5. That's a long show. Takes more than one match to save a show. And I don't think that this match was enough to do that, but I give this match all the praise in the world because I thought it was very good and I enjoyed it a lot. Which leads us to the main event. This is the match, and I said this earlier today when I did the podcast, this is the match that I was looking forward to the most. Which is kind of sad if you think about it. Brock Lesnar, who wrestles 4 times a year, against Bill Goldberg, who hasn't wrestled the match in 12 years. He's almost 50 years old. Wasn't exactly the most dynamic wrestler even back in his prime. And so you take this guy out of retirement, put him in a match against Brock. That's the main event of Survivor Series. I don't know what that says about your current rosters. But, they did it. Look, they did a hell of a job of building this matchup as a special attraction. They're trying to sell video games. That's how this whole thing came about. And I said, I'm looking forward to this match. I think if they're smart about it, if they keep it short, 10 minutes, doesn't have to go longer than that, Brock wins, because what is to be gained by having Goldberg win, especially if this is Goldberg's only match? It makes no sense to waste everything, all the goodwill that you've built up with Brock Lesnar as this unstoppable monster, only for him to lose to a guy who came out of retirement, almost 50 years old. What sense does that make, right? Common sense. What sense does that make? So, they have the video package. Brock comes out. They did the classic WCW entrance with Goldberg. They had the cop banging on the door. Out of the locker room he comes. They escort him to the ring. They did all of that was done perfectly. And Goldberg looks in tremendous shape, especially for a guy his age. And surprisingly, and I was pleasantly surprised, the crowd did not crap all over Goldberg. I thought for sure that they would. You know, I mean, considering his past with Bret Hart and all that, I mean, Goldberg did an event yesterday somewhere in Toronto with some kind of signing or appearance, I guess, for the video game. And I don't know what the context of it was, but it was him answering a question about kicking Bret Hart in the head. And I'm thinking, oh boy, if he's up in Toronto and he's answering questions about this doesn't bode well for him in this building. But you know what? He came out and the people were chanting Goldberg and they didn't boo and they didn't crap all over him, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, all right, that's a good sign here. And I'm getting ready for a smash mouth match. These guys are going to beat the piss out of each other. This is going to be great. And Brock immediately is overpowered by Goldberg and knocked down to the mat. I'm like, that's pretty cool. You know, established dominance here at the beginning by Goldberg, make him look strong. That's pretty good. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, don't get hurt. I was convinced Goldberg was getting hurt in this match because how do you not have a match with Brock Lesnar without getting hurt, right? It's just, especially for somebody who hasn't been doing this in so long. Well, guess what? They found a way to not get Bill Goldberg hurt. It was very simple. Have him win in a minute. He hit a vicious spear on Brock that looked great. Brock got back up, hit him with another spear. Went for the jackhammer. He got Brock up. Again, Goldberg, we saw what happened with Rusev a few weeks ago on TV when he was giving him knees and he kind of tripped and fell down and people gave him crap for it. And I really didn't, because look, he hasn't done this in a long time. Shit happens. He was able to recover from it. He got Rusev up in the air, held him up there for the jackhammer. Rusev's a big boy. Brock's even bigger. He got Brock up in the air for this jackhammer. He held him there. He held Brock Lesnar, all 265 pounds of him, up in the air for a few seconds and dropped him for the jackhammer. This was the Goldberg of 1998. They booked this like a Goldberg squash on Nitro in 98. Raven lasted longer in the ring with Bill Goldberg in his prime than Brock Lesnar did here in the main event of Survivor Series. Goldberg gets the pin. People are shocked. Some people are happy. Big reaction. I barely remember what happened after the match, to be honest with you. I know he brought his son into the ring. His son was shirtless. I don't know why. I don't know if somebody robbed him and stole his shirt from him. I don't know what the crime situation is in Toronto. That seemed very weird to me. But everything else is kind of a blur because I'm still sitting here and I'm in shock over that finish. And in a way, I'm thinking to myself, well, he didn't get hurt. They kept it short. I did say keep it short. I didn't say keep it that short. Overall, I feel cheated. Now, my guess is, well, it's not even my guess. There's no way that could be Bill Goldberg's last match. If that is Bill Goldberg's last match, if we come to find out that Goldberg only agreed to one match and he's not coming back, then this is the stupidest fucking company I have ever seen in my entire life. So I choose to believe that that is not the case. They have to know that they have Goldberg signed up for at least one more match with Brock. My guess is they're going to build to a match at the Rumble in January at the Alamo. I mean, they could wait for WrestleMania. They could do that whole story where Brock is just obsessed with what happened to him at Survivor Series and being embarrassed, and now he's out for revenge, and they save it for WrestleMania. I suppose they could do that, but I would think they would want Brock to wrestle at the Rumble, unless they put him in the Rumble match. So I'm going to guess they've got other plans for Brock at Mania, and we get the Brock-Goldberg rematch where Brock wins at the Rumble in the Alamo Dome. It has to happen that way. That's the only way to correct what I think is a big mistake that they made. You've spent so much time building this guy up as this monster. Everybody you put in front of him, he knocks him down. And I'm talking top guys. He suplexed John Cena 16 times and beat him like he was a nobody in the main event of SummerSlam. But you know what? At least that match went on for 10 minutes or whatever it was, 12 minutes. Some people might have felt cheated by that. I didn't. We at least got an actual match out of it. It was shocking. It was unexpected. This was also shocking and unexpected. But I'm sorry. This is the match that I personally was looking forward to the most. And a minute and 20 seconds, it's over? Pay-per-view goes off the air, however early it was. I mean, yeah, okay, we didn't need a 4-hour show, but still it was advertised as this big main event match. That's your main event? Really? That's it? I'm just flabbergasted by this. And again, I get it if the idea is to do a rematch. You had to establish that Goldberg is the Goldberg of old. He's not just a washed up old man. He can still go. He's got that explosiveness and that intensity about him, but I feel like you could have done that by giving us a little bit more than what you did. Make it a little more competitive. It's just, the pay-per-view ended and I sat there thinking to myself, I waited 3.5 hours to get to this match, and that's the best that you can come up with? I felt kind of ripped off, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not ripped off. I mean, $9.99. I mean, again, the network is a steal. I don't care what anybody says. You don't even have to be the biggest fan of the WWE product right now. For all the back content, the back catalog that they have of all the old stuff that you used to like back in the day, the network is well worth the $9.99. And it's a different time and a different era. Maybe there would have been a lot more outrage. Maybe I would have been a lot more outraged had I paid $60 for this pay. In fact, I could tell you right now I would have been outraged had I paid $60 for this show. But I feel like I was somehow misled. I was expecting an all-out brawl, a fight between these two guys. And I didn't get that. And I don't know what to feel. Because I was not expecting that finish. I was not expecting Goldberg to win. I was not expecting the match to be that. That's the thing for me. The fact that it wasn't even a match. And it just doesn't feel right that you build up something like that so strong for so many weeks, and that's what you deliver on. Maybe I'll feel differently come next weekend. Maybe I will. Maybe as I have more time to sit here and kind of reflect on this and I see what they have up their sleeve on Raw tomorrow night. Maybe they have some big angle they're going to shoot. Maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I will soften my stance as the week goes on. But right now, I'm not very happy about that. And overall, I still say this is a thumbs down pay-per-view. I check the poll now. Now thumbs up is winning out slightly, 51-49. I still say thumbs down on this show. You can find some really good stuff, but overall, this pay-per-view was not as strong as I was hoping and expecting it to be. Raw vs. SmackDown, right, for the very first time. To me, it just didn't live up to expectations. But they did set up some stories going forward. They planted seeds. You know, they certainly built things up a little bit more between Styles and Ambrose going into the TLC match. And we'll get Goldberg and Brock again at some point because we have to. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That cannot be Bill Goldberg's last match. But for Goldberg to be the guy out of everybody that we've seen get mowed down by Brock, to embarrass Brock, to beat Brock as decisively as he did, just doesn't seem right to me. But God bless him if they can do the rematch and make $1 million off of it. So that was your Survivor Series review. A very weird show in a lot of ways. Definitely check out the 5-on-5 Raw versus SmackDown match and watch the main event because, you know, it ain't going to take up much of your time. If you blink, you might miss it. I mean, in the moment, it was cool. It was, again, it kind of felt like the Goldberg of old, but when the bell rang and the match was over, I just sat there thinking, what the hell did I just watch? I think that was the story of the show. Follow me on Twitter at Solomonster. You can vote in the poll. Poll's still up. It's going to be up for another couple days if you want to vote thumbs up, thumbs down. You can download and listen to full episodes of the podcast, the Sound Off podcast. They go up every Sunday afternoon. Check them out on the Solomonster.com. You can subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher Radio. We're on TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, Audio Boom, whole bunch of different services. We have a free app, by the way. If you are an Android user in the Google Play Store, download the free app. You can stream the show that way. You can listen to it in the Podbean app, Podcast Addict. Lots of different ways to listen to the full Sound Off episodes each and every weekend. I thank you again for your time, for checking us out. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll be back very soon with a brand new Sound Off Extra. A lot more content here on the YouTube channel. You can check out the archives for a lot of interviews and other fun stuff. Until next time, I am the Solomonster. Be well, stay safe. Have a very happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care, guys.